thereafter we had water.
So the pump didn't run off electricity though, did it? So you had electricity at the time?
Yeah. Yeah, that all happened after 1938. Before that, why we had a ditch, well, we had two places we did it. We go out in the springs and get it in the back, or we could go down out from the house. We had a creek running down there. We could get it there.
Can you talk about the hardest time of your life?
Hardest
Yeah.
time of my life. Our 3 years in Calgary was the hardest. There was a lot of turmoil in the family. We had left a great big house and we'd moved into a small duplex. Still a 3-bedroom duplex, but Joe was overseas and Milo was in service, and I had gone to camp. The first year, Lucille and I got to go to camp. But after she turned 13 the next year, she couldn't go. And I got to go to IODE camp. Families that didn't have a lot of money would let their children go to this camp for the summer. And it was, I think it was about a week. But I came home and the whole family was in an isolation hospital. And that included Johnny and Winona and Greggy, Lucille. Anyway, I came home and they were all in an isolation hospital and had diphtheria. They called it strep throat. But Mother said she had seen diphtheria and she knew that it wasn't strep throat. But they brought Greggy home because he was ready to die. He was 4 years old. And I remember him lying on the couch and Daddy with him when he died. And then a week later, they had given the sulfa drug, had just come out. And they had overdosed on sulfa drug and burned up Lucille's kidneys. And she knew she was going to die. She was 13 and I was 11. And she just knew she was going to die, and they kept her in the hospital there until she did go. And that was a week after Greggy died. A lot of turmoil in the whole family. I remember telling a girlfriend that she was the only good thing that came out of Calgary. We were there for 3 years before we moved to Nelson.
And why did you guys move to Nelson? What?
The job went awry on the roller skating rink, and he was hired on with the Greyhound buses. And things looked better in Nelson, but we still had Joe overseas. He went in on when they went into France? D-Day into France. He went in on that. And Milo had stayed in the dental corps the whole time. He was a dental assistant. And when his wife married him, she was going to make a dentist out of him, and he was so sick of being in the dental business that there was no way he was going to be a dentist. And it finally broke their marriage up because she wanted to be married to a dentist, and she married him to make him a dentist, and he didn't want to do it. But anyway,
Did she get a dentist eventually?
she did. She divorced my brother, and married a dentist who had a teenage son, and I don't think the marriage lasted 5 or 6 years. It wasn't very much. That was Mabel.
Was Uncle Greg by chance named after Greggy?
He was. Yeah, he was named after Greg. How about yours? Keep it short.
Yeah.
They're fitting.
I can't say I really did have a period of really what I consider to be a hardship. We worked, we got up early, we milked cows, 15, 20 cows. And then when we went to school, we went down, caught the bus to school. And school was another 15 miles up the road, so then we came back and it was late when we got back. But in the summer months, why we We worked hard, and we didn't have much money. That was the hardest part of the whole thing. Didn't have any money, and you know, when you're a kid, boy, you like a new shiny car that you can show off, you know, or something like. We didn't have any of that, and so anyway, as I say, we worked hard. We had a close family, so.
I remember him telling me how hard it was for him to go out on field trips with the kids, and he never had spending money. Everyone had a little bit of spending money, but they never had spending money. So they were pretty tight with money. Well, he said he was getting up to milk cows. You were up at what, 4 o'clock in the morning, 40 degrees below zero, and
No, we didn't get up that early.
it was pretty early.
Think you could still milk a cow?
Yeah, but I could. Yeah.
Oh, we have one.
We'll say that for next one.
We'll bring a cow.
Yeah.
Teaches you how to work hard. And we all know that Grandpa knows how to work hard, and he doesn't know when to quit. And he learned that on the ranch. Am I right? I'm always
Yeah,
right.
guess so, but I have my pauses and my time's off.
Yeah.
We haven't found the off button on you yet.
That's right.
Any favorite Christmas memories as a child?
I do. I have.
You go ahead.
I have, we'd always have a Christmas tree, and it was always decorated, sometimes with light candles before they,
Oh, wow.
before they outlawed those. And in the younger years, I remember believing fervently in Santa Claus, you know, and look forward to that. Gee, like, you know, getting the Christmas season, and you couldn't wait for Santa Claus to come. So we had that ritual, and sometimes we'd have, you know, where there's family living nearby. Grandpa had a brother who lived next door to us, and sometimes we'd get together with them and have Christmas and things like that.
So
yeah,
how old were you when you stopped believing in Santa Claus?
Oh, probably, I believe that when we moved to Thane, and probably the third, maybe fourth grade. Yeah. And I remember on a few Christmases, you know, we used to have the old steam engines that were toys. We don't see those around anymore. But we got those one Christmas, one little steam engine, and it was about midnight, I guess. We heard this toot 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 downstairs, you know. Grandpa had that thing cranked up, and he was blowing a whistle on it.
Was it an actual little steam engine?
Yeah,
And it moved?
yeah. Oh yeah.
He was playing
and
it.
then you would get that little steam engine with Tinker Toys. I think they still have Tinker Toys.
Uh-huh.
And then you would build different things with Tinker Toys. One thing you could build is a mill or a windmill. And so you'd hook a string between this as a belt and the windmill, and that thing would just send that thing is spinning, you know. and then there was the Rector set. There was the two things: the Rector set and the Tinker Toys, and we always got one or both of those for Christmas, so we could build things with them. And then you could work that steam engine in on the Rector set. You could actually build a four-wheeled vehicle and put it on that and propel that. So yeah, we had a lot of fun with those things. As a matter of fact, I'm surprised that we don't see more of those nowadays, you know.
memories as a child, were you done?
Yeah.
My memories as a child, I was, as an adult, I was librarian, and I was going through old pictures to get rid of them. And I came across a Christmas scene, and I started to cry and shake. And I guess that kind of says Christmas as a child. But as we got older and we were in Nelson, the fun thing we did was get an axe and go out into the mountains to find our tree, and we'd usually come back with 2 or 3, which would be illegal now, just to make sure we got the right one. But the fun part was that we would start purchasing things for Jim and Marvin and Gary, the 3 youngest ones at home, to make sure that they had a Christmas. And us older ones would kind of do that. We had a lot of good, fond Christmases of sleigh rides and tobogganing, and Willie he kept going over to Kaylee's, and we didn't know what, over to his boyfriend's working just before Christmas, and he came home with this huge bobsleigh that he had made, and we had a lot of fun on the bobsleigh and sleigh riding and all. That was a lot of fun. But most of my fond memories of Christmas were in Nelson. In Calgary, I can remember Daddy paying $1 for these marvelous mandarin oranges that came from Japan. Here we at war with Japan, but we got all those oranges, and you just load underneath his bed, they'd get all these oranges, and that was a fun thing, because we could go in and eat all the oranges we wanted.
Is that why we still get mandarin oranges in our stockings?
Probably because we got 16 trees.
Yeah.
Well, you also happen to know Santa Claus, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I told that on one of the other. Yeah, that was a fun thing. They had a big auditorium there in Raymond, and the whole town would go in and have this Christmas party, and we're having hands going around Santa, and Santa kept just paying so much attention to me, and I didn't know why until years later I found it was my dad. And he played Santa every year, apparently. But that's the only time I really remember that particular occasion, was that one time where he just kept coming up to me and laughing and saying hi, and I couldn't figure it out. Yeah. That was a good one.
Can you
Thank
describe your father maybe in like a paragraph?
My father had 14 children. And I try to think about it. He was very hot-tempered. And if we could keep his temperament down, we were all okay. But when he left the house, we felt pretty good. We could relax and enjoy things. When Daddy was in the house, we were on our toes because something might set him off and he'd get really upset with us. But, I think about it now. Man, I think how I would be if I had 14 kids. I'm grumpy as it is now, and I have trouble with my patience with my grandchildren, right now. Not him, Colton and Kalia right now.
There we go, let's put that on the record.
Anyway, it's not someone I really want to talk very much about. One day I said, well, when I think of Satan, I think of my dad, and that was an awful thing to say, and Vera just got after me for saying it, and I said, well, no, I didn't mean that he was like Satan, but when he got mad, I guessed that probably that's what Satan looked like. We didn't know. He'd reach his hands out, like my sister said. He'd put his hand out for you, and you didn't know if he was going to hit you or love you, because he was hot-tempered.
Well, you knew him for quite a few years, Grandpa. What do you think about him? I mean, what memories stay with you?
I think he was pretty
My
different
dad,
at
her
that
dad.
point.
Her dad.
Her dad, I enjoyed him.
Of course, the kids were pretty much married by that time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
For sure.
and he was a jokester, you know, he liked to banter with you a lot, and I didn't see that side of him, you know. I really little instance Greg had with him, the way he got upset with the kids, and I think maybe Greg in particularly.
Imagine.
And when we went up there, and he started hollering, just, you know, he just started ranting and hollering and making a real scene. And Greg looked at him starry-eyed, and then when he stopped, why, Greg took a minute, and then he said in his childish voice, more.
He did that when we'd all gone up to see the Hooker Oak, and we left Greg in the car with my dad, and I was nervous about it because he was so quick-tempered. And we heard Daddy holler, and I said, oh, I better get back to the car, something's wrong. By the time we got in the car, Daddy is just laughing and laughing. And Greg had looked him in the eye and said, again?
Again, that's what it was.
Yeah, he
More
said,
again.
Yeah. And it really cut Daddy down, you know. I would never have thought to do that when he was hollering at me, but it was really kind of funny. Daddy had never had anything like that.
Yeah, that was a real put down, isn't it? How old was Greg at the time?
Oh, he was pretty tiny. He was only 3 or 4, I think. He wasn't very old.
Yeah.
But he thought that was pretty good.
How did you react when you heard your father had died?
I was relieved. He was in a rest home, and it wasn't a good situation. I loved my dad very much, and I stood up to him, and I didn't get a lot of the guff that a lot of the other kids did. When I started to date, I says, okay, I'm bringing my dates to the house, and you're going to meet them before I go out with them. Well, when Winona was dating, we didn't know if he was going to beat him up or knock him down or what he was going to do with her dates, and I held my ground. And boy, I was uneasy when my first dates came, you know. And he did what I asked, and they would come in and meet them, and then we would go out like we were supposed to. I said, I'm not going to go meet someone someplace else. They're going to come here and meet you. And that worked out, but I stood up to Daddy. I was the oldest girl at home, kind of defending the younger kids in a lot of things, and I had to stand up to him a number of times. And I think I got away with more than what the others did, because I'd stand up to him. I don't like to talk about my dad. I guess you picked up on this. I don't like to bring up
Okay.
all of that kind of stuff.
Let's talk about your dates. Social
Well,
life
that
in
might
Nelson.
upset me too. Don't upset me, Brad. You learned your lesson. Don't do that.
Tell us about Grandma.
Pardon?
Tell us about Grandma.
Grandma? Well, my mother was very easigoing. A lady in the temple the other day, Marion Mealy, that lived in Nelson. Here, this was just a few months ago. She said, Ferrell, I just loved your mother. I never met someone so gentle and easygoing. And she was. She had to be to offset Daddy, but yet she had her stubbornness in her ways that she could get under his skin shoes. But I love my mom. I love my dad. I learned a lot from Daddy and Mother. It's amazing, really. There isn't any of my granddaughters so far that haven't said, and my daughters who said, Mom, how did your mom do it with 14 children? And she did it with me. And with, we all did it. We all worked together, and we had jobs to do. And I learned a lot from Mother, with all that I can do. I guess I learned at home.
You had an outhouse in Nelson, a 3 or 4 seater.
We had a 4-seater in Nelson. Raymond,